everyone. Let me introduce myself to you. My name is Anju Mathew and I am a first year student of Electronics and Communication Engineering of Amaljyoti College of Engineering, Kandirapalli. I am here to present about the topic cognitive radio. And I am planning to discuss about what is meant by cognitive radio and some of its advantages, types, application, challenges, functions, and its role in public safety and why it is called engineer's garage, and trying to convey a small and a brief explanations about cognitive radio. With today's ambition for more wireless devices and systems, the need for spectral resources to accommodate these systems grows every day. But the remaining spectrum resources seems to be running out. Cognitive radio technology seems to be offers a revolutionary solution to this crisis by looking at a spectrum in an unconventional manner as a multi-dimensional space. Then let us discuss what is cognitive radio. Cognitive radio system is a radio system which is aware of its operational and geographical environment, established policies and its internal state. It is just a wireless communication which the transceiver can intelligently detect which communication challenges are in use and which are not. And here in the right side is provided with a cognitive radio, small image of cognitive radio. And next, we are going to discuss its advantages. There are much advantages also for cognitive radio, and cognitive radio is miraculously helping technology available to the current increasing numbers of users in the century. Cognitive radio networks are more feasible as compared to the single cognitive radio systems. Cognitive radio networks also improve the coverage by relaying technique from one point to another node. And some of its advantages are overcome radio spectrum scarcity, improves quality of service, switch to power saving protocol, improve satellite communications and avoid intentional radio jamming scenarios. Next, we are entering into two types. There are mainly two types of cognitive radio system based on the transmission and reception parameters. They are mainly full cognitive radio or Mottola radio and spectrum sensing cognitive radio. In full cognitive radio system, every possible parameter observed by the wireless node or by the network is considered. And while in the spectrum sensing cognitive radio, the radio frequency is only observed. Then cognitive radio seems to have some applications. As computers became more prevalent in society, the bandwidth demands to communicate wirelessly will outstrip the physical capabilities of our networks. To solve this, a new network of cognitive radios will dynamically allocate spectrum to allocate devices based on a variety of parameters. In the sectors of military and security, healthcare, home appliances, transportation, real-time application, and also in diverse sensing, cognitive radio has its own role. And in this page, in the right side, I try to convey you much more importance or much more application about the cognitive radio. And here it is showing that mobile network, smart card, vehicular networks, emergency and public safety, healthcare, etc. Cognitive radio find its applications. Next, challenges faced by SIA. The information and communication technology industries today face with a global challenge. Develop new service with improved quality of service and at the same time reduce its environmental impact. The two metrics used in the cognitive radio wireless sensor network are misdetection probability and false alarm. Misdetection probability means cognitive radio wireless sensor when it fails to detect the primary signals in the presence of the channel. And while false alarm refers to cognitive radio wireless sensor when it fails to detect the absence of primary signal on the channel. And the other challenge faced by cognitive radio is that it has much more manufacturing cost. It is another challenge for cognitive radio internet. Next is power consumption. In this network, much more energy is consumed, so it's also one of the challenges faced by cognitive radio. And there are some other challenges also, like quality of service and security. Attackers can attack the sensors and they can capture the confidential information which is stored in the memory. And attackers can also destroy the most confidential information by hacking. And let us discuss the functions of SIA. It also has some functions in power control, like it is used to store the capacity of secondary users is maximized along with applying certain constraints to protect the primary users. And it has some functions in spectral sensing also. Wide band spectrum sensing, null space-based cognitive radio and spectrum management. And in this image we can also see about some of its much more information, and it shows that it's like a flowchart. First we are sensing, then we are analyzing about the cognitive radio, then we are reasoning why we adopt the system, and then we adapt it. It's the main steps for cognitive radio. That's how we adapt this cognitive radio. First we are sensing, then we analyze about its nature, and we are reasoning why we select the cognitive radio, and finally we are adapting cognitive radio. Next, cognitive radio for public safety. It also finds space in public safety. A cognitive radio is a radio that can change its transmitter parameters based on interaction with the environment in which it operates. True application that says that why cognitive radio found its place in public safety. Its first is it has the ability of a public safety cognitive radio to recognize spectrum availability and reconfigure itself for much more efficient communications and spectrum use. Secondly, cognitive radio is a prime application that may facilitate interoperability between communication systems that otherwise could not operate together. Next, it's also called engineer's garage because a spectrum is a collection of wavelengths of radio frequency waves which are available for wireless communication service. Electromagnetic spectrum is a resource which cannot be depleted but can be transmitted in some bands, much more others due to the static allocation. So cognitive radio is also referred to as engineer's garage. And the wavelengths are broken down and brackets of these, also called bands, are allocated for various purposes such as 3G, 4G, Wi-Fi, TV, radio broadcasting and mobile satellites, etc. Let me conclude by saying the main motivation behind cognitive radios has been to increase the spectrum utilization by allowing the unlicensed or secondary users to opportunistically access the frequency band actually owned by the licensed or primary users. Let me conclude this section. Thank you. Thank you all.